In brief, is the triple play I referenced in my introduction. Play 1, massive debt reduction and relief. Play 2, dramatic conservation and climate policy advancements. Play 3, safe funding for the governance and husbandry of our reef and oceans. Mr. Speaker, if anyone doubts the hard bargain our negotiating team struck, let me quote Carl Ross, the co-chair of the creditor committee and one of the largest super bond holders. He said to a Love FM interviewer, quote, "We are taking massive losses on our claims. This deal is indeed a deep loss to bondholders, and it is not necessarily something I like." And if there is any doubt about the ingenuity of the structure and beneficial substance of these transactions, allow me to quote the following notable commentaries. From the Financial Times, September 19th edition, and I quote, "If Belize can secure approval, the country can secure the first green-tinged debt restructuring. Investors and advisors say that the agreement could serve as a template for future restructuring talks in which cash-strapped nations use the promise of environmental conservation to drive a harder bargain." From Mitu Gulati, a distinguished scholar in sovereign debt matters, and I quote, "The recent restructuring of Belize's sovereign debt is an example of how a country can address a debt crisis while preserving investment that can promote sustainable growth. No other sovereign has ever gotten additional debt restructuring itself in exchange for doing environmental preservation itself." From the regional columnist and commentator Mark Wilson, writing for the Trinidad Express, and I quote, "The new blue bonds, which will replace the super bonds, will carry a lower interest rate, and there's an extra 7 years for repayment. It sounds like magic. Belize was badly in need of magic. It's easy to see why Belize is celebrating." And even the U.S. Treasury Department now finds favor with our model. Reuters quoted John Morton, the top advisor on climate change, on climate finance, as saying that debt for nature swaps are, quote, an attractive way to mobilize more capital to fight climate change. And that, quote, end quote, and that while such deals could be small and complex, quote again, they could be useful tools to respond to the climate crisis. Perhaps most importantly, here at home, the principal social partners issued public expressions of approval for these transactions, portions of which I now highlight. From the Belize Business Bureau, the BBB applauds the innovative effort of propelling the blue bond economy forward. From the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the BCCI articulates our support for this innovative blue bond financing strategy, which, among other things, ultimately represents close to 12% reduction to Belize's overall national debt, thereby alleviating the strain on the country's foreign assets. From the Belize network of NGOs, the BNN congratulates government on the Blue Bond Initiative, an innovative and welcome financial approach to support marine conservation as a hallmark of sustainable human development while relieving a significant portion of Belize's crushing debt obligations. And from the NTUCB, the use of blue bonds in the magnitude proposed is novel within our hemisphere and will improve confidence within the international financial sector. The NTUCB is pleased to learn that the current efforts of the government seek to reduce the national debt by an estimated $500 million. To our social partners, I say that the most fitting response for these expressions of confidence is today's proceedings, where the arrangements we reviewed are being consummated in the form we promised and ahead of our previously announced deadlines. Mr. Speaker, I am compelled to acknowledge, in addition to the social partners, the following entities and individuals for their contributions during this year of arduous negotiations. First, the PSU and the BNTU, whose ultimate acceptance earlier this year for the national budget with its wage and cost adjustments set the tone for the grueling negotiations with the creditor committee and bondholders. The budget, as part of government's homegrown recovery plan, illustrated that Belize was capable of adjusting its wayward fiscal course without the need of an IMF program. The benefits of these proposals will accrue to every Belizean, to this generation, and to those yet unborn. Mr. Speaker, this bill and motion has the recommendation of the Cabinet.